Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. We have two shows this week. That's it before we get ready for the Christmas break, although we'll have a lot of content and shows that we've had circulating over the course of the holiday season. So stay with us here in the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. My name is Scott Morganroth. Please, and once again, this is Fire Up Michigan. Pleased to be joined by my crew, George Eichhorn. Welcome back, George.
Good to be here, Scott. Guys, looking forward to it.
Sean McCabe, welcome back. Earned another trip, and you're going to be getting many more, especially after the first year. We kind of ease you into this program a little bit.
Appreciate Scott fired up to be here. It should be a good show.
All right, and last but not least, Smoking Jeremy B. Welcome back, Mr. Lion.
Oh, I am happy to be here.
All right, well, let me give everybody an overview of what we're going to be doing here. We're going to talk about Dan Campbell. Now, we had a pretty interesting matchup in the quarterback situation yesterday where you have a couple top picks squaring off. Speaking of Jared Goff and Zach Wilson, and we'll talk about the Lions' future opponents and some other little tidbits that I'll pass along as the show progresses. So, anyways, all right, let's go ahead and lead off with Smoking Jeremy. First of all, Dan Campbell wins round one versus Robert Saleh. At one point or another, the Lions thought about bringing Saleh on, but opted to go with Campbell. So, give me an overview, Jeremy, of what your perception is of round one.
Round one, you got to give it to Dan. We scored every quarter. We've only done that in a few games this year. We did it against Philly. We did it against Seattle. We did it against Minnesota both times. And now we did it against them. And, of course, against the Jags. I mean, they didn't really have much of a prayer.
Right.
This was a nice, full, well-rounded win, too. He outcoached them. The crazy thing is Robert Saleh made the same mistakes that Dan Campbell made when we were down by less than a touchdown a few weeks back before the run started. Remember when he didn't use his timeouts? It didn't make any sense. They had 151 on the clock, and they're driving down the field to get a last-minute touchdown. They didn't use a single timeout. And they had all of them. No clock management. I think he went to that same school as Nathaniel Hackett.
And it bit him. All right, Sean, give me your thoughts about round one.
Yeah, Campbell definitely got the W here. I think really outcoached him. He kind of throw maybe that field goal at the end wasn't the greatest decision, 54-yard attempt, but he really only netted him. If it's a touchback, only 16 yards difference between that and the Jets got the ball for 41. But yeah, he really outplayed him, and Saleh just really, like Jeremy was saying, just made a lot of boneheaded time management decisions at the end there. But it seems like all these head coaches do this. I don't know, it's just harder than we as fans think it is because they all mess it up every week. It's kind of crazy to see. But yeah, he really kicked himself there. But I really like this Lions team. The way Campbell's building it is that they can win in a million different ways. We can win shootouts, we can win close. Not in the beginning of the year, but now with the way Clint's got the defense playing, we can win a lot more close. So yeah, I really was impressed. And like Campbell said after the game in the locker room speech, we did a lot of things wrong, but we did a lot of things right. I'm never gonna have any regrets because we got the W, and that's all that matters. So round one to Campbell.
George?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Campbell did win round one. Jeff Seidel, the Detroit Free Press columnist, who I really admire his work, wrote a really nice story leading up to that battle and how both teams are almost a mirror image of themselves in different ways. Maybe Detroit's offense is better than the Jets' offense, but the Jets' defense entering that game was highly rated. And, the Lions interviewed, of course, both guys for the job. It would have been interesting, even without Campbell being involved. But I think the Lions made a great choice. I mean, round one goes to Dan, and so be it. But I agree. I mean, he looked very bad on those last 2 minutes. The Jets took too much time and scrambled for that extra long field goal try of 58 yards. They mismanaged it. I mean, they could have got the ball closer than they did. But that being said, I mean, of course, that would have just tied it if they would with a field goal. And like Jeremy said, I mean, they had a chance to even score a touchdown. They just mismanaged the clock very bad. And I'm glad they did instead of it being on the Lions' shoulders this time. Right.
Yeah, the Lions have been on the wrong side of a lot of those close games. I think a lot of people have heard of the Dignity Memorial. Isn't that the funeral thing out there?
Yes.
Well, today's version of Get Up with Mike Greenberg felt like that all day long because instead of blaming Zach Wilson, he was all over Robert Saleh for clock management. And since Mike Greenberg is the ultimate New York Jets fan, I have to tell you, I kind of enjoyed watching Greeny go down for this one. I really did. Gang Green went down to Honolulu Blue and Silver, and yet I regard Mike Greenberg as one of the finer moderators out there. He does a great job professionally.
Oh,
And he also went to Northwestern McGill School of Journalism. So Mike is an excellent broadcaster. But, let's face it, he's a homer, okay, on the air, and he's not afraid to show his Jets allegiancy. But to his credit, even though he talked about the game toward the second hour of Get Up itself earlier, okay, he did give the Lions credit, and everybody's raving and drinking the Dan Campbell Kool-Aid, and they should. I mean, this guy's been, I guess he's 6'7", weighs an awful lot. I mean, you talk about a guy who can lift bricks, do push-ups in training camp, and Dan Campbell. I know they had the Hard Knocks thing earlier, and I know a lot of people talk about hype, but give this guy a whole lot of credit. And I will tell you this, and I will be sharing this broadcast in the Lions transcripts with Miami Dolphins fans, because actually Dan Campbell was a former interim coach with the Dolphins, and he gave them an early Christmas present with a Jets win. And Dan Campbell was 5 wins and 7 losses with the Miami Dolphins, taking over for Joe Philbin. Never got the full-time gig, but at least he was able to experience a little bit on the head coaching side. But with that said, Dan Campbell, Robert Saleh, I don't really think you could have gone bad with either choice, but I think as it stands right now, Campbell's looking awfully good. And, we'll get to the Lions' future opponents in just a few minutes or so. But I think you've got a win-win situation for the Jets and the Lions. I really do. You have Dan Campbell doing a nice job, and Robert Saleh, he's going to do some good things out there, which leads me over to transition to the quarterback matchup. A former number 1 overall pick, Jared Goff, against last year's top 2 pick, Zach Wilson. So, George, why don't you size up that matchup? I know that I believe Mike White went down with a rib injury.
Yes, and that you're right, Scott, and that did cost the Jets, because Zach has had his issues with getting along with his teammates and other stuff in the locker room this year. Let's face the facts. He barely completed 50% of his passes yesterday. And the Lions defense, I think, did an adequate job. I mean, it was really like a pick-em game there up until the very end. And Goff, again, it wasn't as spectacular as a game, like let's say he had against the Vikings, for example. But, that big touchdown pass to Brock Wright, and, he did what he had to do. He's cool and calm and collected. This man, as Jeremy pointed out in many of our shows, he's cut down on his interceptions. He's cut down on fumbles. I mean, Jared Goff is protecting that football even better than Matthew Stafford, at least for this stretch, I mean. And I really do admire that. Zach Wilson, he played a decent game, but not enough to beat the Lions.
Well, I will say this before I turn over to Jeremy, though. I did see Zach Wilson shred Central Florida at the Boca Raton Bowl. And I'll tell you one thing. You talk about me drinking the Zach Wilson Kool-Aid. I did. And then I proceeded to bring on the sports information director for, I believe it was BYU, right? That's where he came out of, right?
Utah State.
Utah
State, yeah.
He was BYU.
No, I think it was BYU. What? Well, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Zach Wilson was BYU. I'm thinking
that's
of
not
BYU. Somebody else.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But anyways, I ended up bringing on Jacob Hatch, and we had a nice show here, and he talked about Zach Wilson. So I think the one thing that Robert Saleh is doing a good job is quit drinking the coffee stuff here and think that everybody's got to get great overnight. It's just not going to happen.
No, that was Will Levis that talked about drinking the coffee with mayonnaise.
Well, no, we're not talking about that, Jeremy. We're talking about the fact that Robert Saleh made a comment about the coffee business, thinking that you're going to get instant gratification with this quarterback, and telling New York media, leave this guy alone. He's going to be all right. It's only his second year. Robert Saleh is doing a great job protecting the kid. But getting back to my original point about Zach Wilson, I saw what he did in Central Florida. This kid does have tools. He really, really does. And you know, New York is a very impatient. Wait, Jeremy. New York is a very, very impatient area. They are. You know, I understand they're great fans out there, and they pile in bunches. And yeah, booze is definitely in their vocabulary. The BOOS part, okay. But you know, leave Zach Wilson alone. I think.
And he had, to your point, Scott, he had 317 yards passing.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
He did.
on only 18 completions.
Right.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
made what he had count. Yeah, the guy's got an arm. I mean, you know, I think the only indictment against him actually was the fact that he had a bad press conference and didn't show accountability on his own, which is why Saleh sat him down for a little bit, rethink things out. And now, obviously, Zach is just a young guy. He's going to learn. But getting back to the matchup, Jared Goff, the Rams literally gave up on him. Brad Holmes knew he was good and then fleeced the Rams to get those extra picks anyways. So you have a starter for a starter. Matthew delivers the Super Bowl title. Jared Goff is having a fine year and is still continuing to go on. It's a win-win situation but I like the matchup. You know, two top-tier quarterbacks draft-wise, the former number one overall pick for whom they gave up on, who did, by the way, get him to a Super Bowl for whatever it's worth, against a number two pick who I still think Zach Wilson, the upside is a lot higher. So, you know, it was interesting to see that matchup, especially because I'm a firm believer quarterbacks can be drafted anywhere and be good. And if that isn't a good enough example, your most recent one is Brock Purdy, but we're not going to get into that. That's just the latest string of guys.
I'm going to say it again. He plays a Purdy game.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. I like Purdy one-liners. Very good segue. Okay. So, Sean, with that said, what are your thoughts about Goff Wilson?
Yeah, I think Jared Goff is playing fantastic besides 2 months. I mean, he even said I'm playing the best football of my career. He's in top 10 in yards, touchdowns, and QBR this year. Playing at a Pro Bowl level, he's been fantastic. Like Jeremy was saying, he cut down the interceptions, hasn't had one since the Green Bay game. Just really doing things he needs to do. He's been a great game manager. He's not throwing the ball over big plays when he needs to. That was a heck of a play call by Ben Johnson on that Brock Wright touchdown before down. And then Zach, now, I like Zach coming out of college. He's got a great arm, and he can really move and throw really well, but the immaturity showing a little bit, and so Saleh sat him down. And like you said, the arm showed up. He had, I think, 4 or 5 completions over 30 yards. We also could have picked off 5 or 6 passes. We got the one, but we could have picked off a lot more. So he's a little inconsistent. Scott, like you were saying, he's really young. I mean, what is he, like 23, 24? So, I mean, he's a young guy. I like him. Hopefully he gets better, but right now I'll take the W. And Goff's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Hopefully he gets in there.
Now, I should point out that Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. And we're also striving for 1,000 subscribers. So there's a red subscribe button on there. It's easy to do. Just go ahead, hit the subscribe button. We'll get closer to that 1,000, and we want to certainly be able to find as many fans that can enjoy all the numerous shows that we have out there. With that said, okay, George, any closing thoughts about the Goff Zach Wilson dynamic?
No, but I think it was Jeremy's turn.
Well, Jeremy,
I was like going, "Hey, what happened here?"
what happened? Okay, well, you know what? It is your turn, so that's what happened.
Okay. Well, Goff was 23 of 38, while Zach Wilson was 18 of 35. Yes, Zach Wilson has a big arm and he loves to throw it deep. But what I notice, because he hasn't learned that game manager side of the game, that's why I was pointing to my head when you brought up Wilson. He has all the physical tools. He doesn't have the intangibles yet. He hasn't learned that side of the game at the pro level. He floats those long passes, and a lot of them could have been picked easy with better coverage. The bad part is every time somebody else started making catches, they'd move Okudah on that guy, and that would leave Wilson with either AO or Will Harris in coverage, and that's like asking Swiss cheese to stop water.
That was good. Jeremy, you always come up with them.
Well, I'll tell you, at times you're on, Jeremy. That Lions defense looked like Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby Joseph had a couple good plays here and there, but he even had a less than stellar game. And when you talk about the tackling, our best tackler was a guy that missed a quarter and a half of football, Deshaun Elliott. He had 5 tackles total. So, you know, defensively, it wasn't that great of an effort, but they came up big when they had to.
Yeah.
I mean, Romeo Aquara still playing limited snaps. I think they had him on 20 to 25 of the defensive snaps. Had 2 tackles, and both of them were sacks. Hutch had a few tackles, and 2 of them were tackles for loss in the run game. And that's what I wanted to point out. If you look, the non-athletic QB teams, they're not getting big yards against this team. Look at Minnesota.
Right.
What was it? 26 yards total between
Yes.
Madison and
The Lions have held, good point. The Lions have held these last 2 opponents under 100 yards total.
wait, it's 50 and under. This is the
Isn't
first
that
time
low?
a team, the Jets had 50 yards rushing in this game, and last week it was 21 yards total because
Well, that's what I
Dalvin
meant.
Cook-
Combined, it was under 100.
combined under 100. But I'm just saying, each game it's 50 or less. That's huge. I mean, that was the biggest thing that was the sieve at the beginning of the season. It didn't matter if it was Rashad Penny, Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts, or Miles Sanders. They were gashing us for 10 to 15 yards a run.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I think I know we'll talk about the schedule a little bit later. We're moving forward these last 3 games. You're looking at non-bubble quarterbacks, and it looks like our MO is going to be we really stop the run, and we let those elite receivers, Wilson or Jefferson, get the yards they're going to get, and then we shut down kind of everything else, and it's been working for us. Hopefully, we keep that going moving forward.
I mean, Garrett Wilson had a decent game, 4 catches for 98 yards. Everybody there had a decent game. The only guy that stood out was that CJ Uzomah. I mean, Bengals are missing him. They kept the wrong tight end.
Yeah, he had a 40-yard reception, that one big play, right?
Yeah, and the other one was a 1-yard touchdown pass, the floater over on
Right,
that 4th down.
right.
And that was, I sit there, I goes, oh my God, somebody cover Uzomah. Somebody cover, too late. Because I saw Zach Wilson just act like he gave the running back the ball. He turned around and just sort of floated it over there. That'd have been such an easy ball to pick that close to the goal line. And the coverage should have been way tighter than that, but they all bid on the play action. Which, when we got good passes, what were they biting on? Play action.
Play
Good
action.
thing we returned the favor on that touchdown on that play action. That was beautiful. Barker never been within 25 yards of him when he caught the ball.
I think he was only 2 yards past the line of scrimmage when he caught the ball. That was 49 yards after the catch. And it was a beautiful run, and seeing Amon-Ra and Reynolds block for him downfield, that was great.
They folded like a deck of cards, Jeremy, the Jets defense on that play.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm taking nothing away from Brock Wright, but boy, oh boy, those missed tackles and that punt return too for Raymond. Oh my God, the coverage on that was so shoddy.
Yeah.
But to Detroit's favor, they pulled it off.
That punt return was fantastic, though. When I saw him, it was a bad punt, really, because he punted it from the 2 and he caught it on like the 47, I think it was. And
a very bad punt.
You know, that's a 45-yard punt. That means he had -2 net yards on the first punt of the game.
Well, you guys tell the game story real well. And this may seem pretty crazy for a lot of us, you guys that are watching or listening. I recorded the game anyways. And I spent my weekend up in Jacksonville with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, what a game you saw, Scott.
I have seen the Dallas Cowboys play 3 times, once against the Cardinals in Tempe, where they did beat the Cardinals, and once against the Lions at the old Texas Stadium on a Monday night game when they were the defending Super Bowl champion. I'll never forget. I'm staying at the Lions Hotel. I was asking General Manager Chuck Schmidt, do you think we're really going to win this? And you'll be surprised that you're going to see tomorrow night. Chuck Schmidt, lo and behold, the Lions won it in overtime with like 17 seconds ago. And then last night, if you think you can top another act, what happened yesterday was when Dak Prescott threw that pick 6 to Rayshawn Jenkins. Oh my goodness! And I've been spending all day watching Stephen A. Smith read the riot act against the Cowboys, and Mike Greenberg doing the old obituary with Dignity Memorial. But I will say, to their credit, both of them, though, Smith and Greenberg, they were definitely drinking the Dan Campbell Kool-Aid, and they're really pulling for the Lions. But Smith, man, the agenda he's got against the Cowboys is so big it makes Mount St. Helens look like a little molehill compared to the agenda that he has there. Sorry, folks, my voice was frogging up a little bit. So,
And then last week after the victory, Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Will, and Max Kellerman had Herm Edwards on, and they were like, they did their little who's in, who's out, and he goes, Seahawks, Giants, Commanders, Lions. Who do you got making the playoffs? He goes, I got Seahawks and Lions.
who?
Herm Edwards said that.
Herm Edwards.
Well,
said-
Herman Edwards, okay. I won't get into a
yeah.
Max Kellerman thing because I think my cat Bucky would make a better journalist than Max Kellerman. So I mean, if that isn't good enough, my
I
cat
make a better journalist than Max Kellerman.
Oh,
That's
come
another
on.
story.
Actually, Steve don't particularly care for you, which is why Stephen A. Smith ran you out of the building. And say what you want about Stephen A. And I will say this much: you might be a little loud for my taste, but when you have exceptional argumentation and debate skills and you research, you'll always be okay in my book. With that said, let's move this thing along a little bit about the Lions' future opponents because they only got 3 of them left anyways. They'll be at Charlotte on December 24th and Saturday, Week 16. I've seen a couple of games over Bank of America Stadium. Unfortunately for Detroit, they were on the wrong end of them, including one of those that they set the road losing streak, but nevertheless, they returned to Charlotte. And then they'll host Chicago on Sunday, January 1st, my wedding anniversary, but won't be there for that one. And, of course, I'll be at Green Bay on January 8th, Week 18. So I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead. We'll see where we go. We'll lead off with you, Jeremy, so I don't forget about you. You see what record do you see the Lions going with these final 3 games?
None of these teams have a winning record right now. They're not
Okay.
even 500. So, what did we do to Aaron Rodgers the first time? We made him look like the guy we said as Karen Rodgers for the last 3 years. The guy that whines
What
and
makes you
cries.
think he's going to be playing that day?
I don't think he'll be playing that
That's
day.
That's my point.
Because I think they'll be mathematically eliminated tonight. Because Baker Mayfield looks like a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers right now, and that shocks me to even have those words come out of my mouth.
Okay, so Jeremy, please answer my question. Give me a record for the Lions 3 games, and then everybody can elaborate once I get the records because I'm writing these down. 3 games. What's the record of the Lions for final 3?
We'll win against the Panthers. We should beat Chicago at home because we smacked them around in their own house.
Okay.
And I think we're going to go into as something to play for, and we're going to win in Lambeau.
So 3-0?
3-0.
All right. John, you're next.
Yeah, I think we're looking at 3-0 as well. I think we're going to be able to shut down the Panthers. They didn't look good against the Steelers. Steelers worries me with the way he can move around. That scramble he had yesterday was amazing. But I think we can shut them down at home for sure. And I don't think Rodgers is going to be playing. I don't trust Jordan Love at all for the last game of the season. So I think we'll win that one pretty easily as well, too. We'll see, though, what happens tonight. I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to outplay Aaron Rodgers tonight because they still got an outside shot at the playoffs if they win tonight. And it would help us, as much as I hate to see the Packers win in the draft. So I think the Packers will get it done tonight. So we'll see. If they can win the next couple of games, he might play in Week 18. But I think we're going to go 3-0 for sure.
On you, George. All right, go ahead, Jeremy. What?
I said, by the way, the next Chicago loss makes my 4-way parlay for the NFC North over and unders pay.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I don't know anything about a parlay, so for all you gambling people that don't read me the Riot Act, I don't know much about parlays at all. I don't gamble, and that's a conflict of interest for me to even think I'm going to go there, knowing I'm in an industry professional that I want to get involved with that stuff. But I'll take your word for it, Jeremy. Yeah, we'll call you new media, so you can parlay all you want to. Okay, nobody else say anything. The FCC won't give you anything to do with kneecap biting and all your business there. But I got to stay away from the parlay stuff. All right, George.
I can't drink that Kool-Aid that strong, guys. Come on. The Lions will get tripped up in one of those games. Which one, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the Carolina game. So they're going to go 1-2. 2-1.
1-2. I was like, what?
2-1.
I thought you were drinking the Kool-Aid.
2-1. They're either going to lose at Charlotte or Green Bay. I can't make up my mind yet, Scotty. But 2-1 for the Detroit team, and they're going to still make it in though. The Giants look like they're going to make it too. So Seattle and Washington might be the two looking on the outside, but I still think it's going to be 2-1.
Yeah,
you know
George, brand new Lions, not same old Lions, right? We got a whole new
Oh no,
outlook on
I'm
life.
not doubting that. I mean, this is something we haven't seen here in quite a few years. There's no question, Sean. But to say the team's going to win out the whole rest of the season, I mean, that's a huge if.
It's happening.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go 2-1 too, but I hope I'm wrong. Like everybody on this panel, we all hope we're wrong. They go 3-0, but I think somewhere along the way they're going to get tripped up too. I don't know whether it's actually going to be Charlotte or whether the Bears would come in and Justin Fields has a game of his life. That would be the one I'd worry about too. But I'm going to go 2-1, hoping I'm wrong at 3-0. All right, now I'll allow everybody to elaborate. Okay. All right, so Jeremy, we'll start with you. Give me a brief overview of what you expect from the Lions in Charlotte.
I mean, if Sam Darnold's starting, we're winning.
Okay.
And so far, he's starting in Carolina. PJ Walker, he lost that job because he started turning into a bakery that specializes in turnovers. And therefore, Sam Darnold was the guy because Baker Mayfield was a baker of turnovers while he was in Carolina. Then you got Justin Fields, who can run like Hades. He can throw the ball a country mile, but he's got the wide receivers that we had last year. None.
That's good. And then the last one.
It's Aaron Rodgers and that mash unit of aging and retired corpses that used to be wide receivers like Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins. They're all getting on and off the field. I don't know if they're off the field as much
Right
as they're
now,
on.
Sammy Watkins got released, so you can't put him in there no more.
Oh, darn. So he's off the field again.
He's
Imagine
off the field,
that.
but not due to injury. He got the pink slip. We'll see if somebody picks him up off the scrap.
Oh, he should have got the pink slip. He probably shouldn't have been signed because I've been saying for the last 3 years he's been overrated. He was carried by Mahomes.
Well, not only that, he's also been hurt. But all right, so yeah, and again, we already talked about the fact that Jordan Love could be under center anyway. So, all right, Sean, give me your take about each of these three games.
Carolina loves to run the football. We've been really good at stopping the run. I think we're going to do it again on Saturday. Get a nice little early Christmas present. So I think we take them out pretty easily, but I think about 10 points. Chicago scares me. Fields is very explosive, and the way he can run, and he's got a great arm on him. They don't have anyone to throw to, but that's the game that worries me. Chicago always seems to bite us in the butt when it's the most unopportune time. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. And then I think Green Bay, I think they'll be out of it by the time that game rolls around. I think we'll win
Right.
pretty easy and take out one. Make sure you have a pretty bad game. That's what I'm saying.
George?
Well, like I said earlier, Scott, they think they're going to get tripped up in one of the games. I mean, the two that would be the most logical for me would be the two road games. Although you guys do make a good point about Justin Fields. I mean, the way this kid runs all over the field and throws all the way around, but he just doesn't have all the tools to back him up. The game in Carolina, I mean, it looks like it could be a win for Detroit on paper. The Chicago game, that's New Year's Day at Ford Field. That's the final home game. And then the last game is at Green Bay. Curiously enough, Kornacki, the prognosticator, he updated his Lions odds last night. I don't know if you guys caught it. The Lions are like now high 30% chance probability of making the playoffs. He only gave Detroit above 50% chance to win those games against Chicago. He gave Detroit I don't know what it was, like 30, 37. What was it? 30. I wrote it down here. Okay. So Detroit's chances to make the playoffs went to 39%. To beat Carolina, he's given them a 57% chance. To beat Chicago, he's given them a 70% chance, which I think is way too high. And at Green Bay, he's only given them a 43% chance.
And that's due to cold weather. That's what that's due to.
Oh yeah, sure, of course it is.
But yeah,
and the legacy.
We have to remember one thing: Goff is 2-0 versus Rodgers.
Well, yeah, that's true. He is. but don't turn the Packers
In
aside.
playoffs.
There'll be a lot of pride in that game. Hey, the Lions went in and beat them last year, and they don't want to see that happen again. They're going to be
Yeah,
playing
'cause
for pride. Now they could be, a
let's
losing
let's
team.
talk about that coach Matt LaFleur that he's got problems with right now. Remember last year, just before that game, he said, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers and the rest of them, our starters are going to play the whole game." Halfway through the second quarter, he goes, "Man, they're going to kill him. He's been hit 12 times and sacked 4 times, and he's already thrown a pick. Get him out of there."
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
remember.
Jeremy, you're our version of Chris Berman with all your nicknames, man.
Yeah, isn't he?
You are. I swear
Matt
to God.
LaFleur.
Yeah, and you
I've
know
been
what,
calling him
Jeremy?
that for years.
That's part. Well, I know, but we have a different audience, so they don't know what you've been calling them for. So it's a different story. But you know what? You are a version of Chris Berman, and sometimes I have a hard time keeping a straight face, wondering when your next one's coming. So if for no other reason, you got a good reason to watch or listen to this show.
I'm interested in knowing, Scott. What do you think about these last 3?
Mine? Well, I've seen games in Charlotte, and the Lions have had difficulties there. They have had problems. Although this team they're sending in there is a whole lot better team. I guess the quarterback situation in Carolina reminds me of a who's on first, what's on second.
I don't know who's on third.
Yeah, well, we did know who's on third, but he's playing the Packers tonight, so forget that. But you got PJ Walker, and then you also have Sam Darnold. So, one of my favorite memories in Charlotte when the Lions had that unmemorable losing streak was when Rob Parker was badgering the daylights out of Rod Marinelli.
Oh,
And I mean, he stood there and gave it to Marinelli like you wouldn't believe. And Rob and I are good friends. Okay, just I said it out there to you guys. You guys know who he is. Rob, I told him after I was done, thanks for doing what everybody else would want to do. But at least you, no problem, Scott. I mean, Rob and I, you talk about two guys get along good. Me and him, we definitely did. But he didn't mind sticking it to Marinelli. But the Lions have had trouble in the past with Charlotte before. I got to tell you a weird story that actually happened to me out there. And I don't know if I'm really totally proud of it, but I'm going to mention it. I go to an ATM place right near one of those offsite ones, not at the bank, and it swallowed up my ATM card, my money card. Luckily, though, I had enough cash on me. I had a new one sent to me, and it happened on Christmas Day, and I had it actually sent to me over at the hotel I was staying. Luckily, I had enough cash to get through the turnpike system in the Virginias. But anyways, the Lions have lost a couple games when I was over in Charlotte as well. But somehow, some way, they're bringing in a much better team, and they're playing awfully well. What would we say? They started 1-6, and now they won 6 of the last 7, so they're playing awfully well. Charlotte's made me nervous. The one that in the past, I think they're going to win this one. Gosh, if I've seen that Justin Fields can make teams look bad by himself, he doesn't have the tools around him to do it, but he's awfully dangerous. If there's one thing that would make me nervous, it would be this one. I do see them winning in Green Bay, mainly because I think Jordan Love is going to be the quarterback there. And they beat him last year on the final game of the year with Jordan Love at quarterback. And the Packers are going to want to play him that final game to see if there's any trade value or whatever they're going to do. So I think if there's a hiccup, it could come with Chicago, but I'll say what I said earlier. I hope they're 3-0. What the likely possibility would be 2-1. And you have to find out what Aaron Rodgers' situation. I said the biggest Achilles heel for the Packers all year long is that Aaron Rodgers, when he got his money, did not go ahead and spend time with his new receivers and get on the same page. And we all know how that turned out. So,
Well, that's
so
because
I'm
he was
going
too
to
busy
say,
having DMTs and hanging out with that witch.
right. Well, I'll take the fifth on
no,
that one.
Danica Patrick is out of the picture. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was talking about Blue. That's
She's
her
like,
name.
she's like
is
stranded in
Blue.
Peru or something, I heard. So,
Yeah, but wasn't it with this woman named Shailene Woodley? She's I don't know what her name was, but she was adorable, man.
yeah, she's
Just like
an
Jared
actress,
Goff,
Oh,
though.
the one last year, right? Not the
Right,
one this
yeah,
year.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but I still think of all the other significant others, that Christian Harper tops them all. I mean, man, is live as she adorable, man. And
Olivia
you know what?
Munn. I mean,
If she got
she's
excited
some-
about that first, hold on, Jeremy. If she got excited about that first win when the Lions won it on that swimsuit photo out there, can you imagine that woman's in luxury because she's got 7 wins today, and she was celebrating for 1. Now she gets to celebrate 7 times, albeit not shooting a Sports Illustrated thing. But hey, Kristen Harper's adorable.
You know,
So
Good incentive for Jared Goff to keep winning.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
I'd
So,
want those video chats of her jumping up and down when they win too.
Yeah, well, it's a
I'm
male
just
thing,
saying.
folks. When you got a guy like Jared Goff who's a California kid and he meets up with a very attractive significant other, and I know they get along really good. I enjoy seeing their social media back and forth on Instagram. I don't do much with the Twitter with the personal stuff, and they don't do it on Facebook. They seem like a good couple, but more importantly, not losing sight of the whole picture here with Jared Goff. Brad Holmes, to me, should be a candidate to win Executive of the Year, knowing full well that he's fleecing everybody that makes a trade with him. He's going to develop that reputation. Nobody wants to trade with him because they all think Brad. Here, we'll just go ahead, Jeremy, say it right now. Brad Fleece Holmes. Is that the next thing you're going to come up with? No, actually, you can't because I just came up with it, and you got to follow the lead and promote it in your whatchamajigger kneecaps.
I'm still waiting. They have all those little videos they do where they put on that Snoop Dogg song and they put the shades on somebody and you hear la 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 la. I'm the D-O-double-G. And I do that
Now we're
with
getting a little
Brad
bit
Holmes in
clean
trade
here.
situations.
All right. Well, you know what? That's interesting here. So, again, there you go. Future opponents. Two of my crew says 3-0. George and I 2-1. Maybe we've been around a little too long to think they could go 3-0. Although there was a time when the Lions did make it to the playoffs and they won 8 in a row to get in, and they got beaten by Philadelphia. I was here in Florida with my parents at the time, but that was an incredible.
That was the Rodney Pete starting year when we put in Eric Hipple
No, Eric.
no.
or
Kramer.
Eric Kramer. Yeah, I knew it was one of the two.
Didn't
And-
Philly score 50
and then-
on us in that playoff game?
And then Pete got healthy, and they said, "Well, he's our first-round draft pick. We got to start him."
Well, no, whether you know it or not, Rodney Pete was a 6th-round pick out of USC. He was a Heisman Trophy runner-up.
Right, but they wanted him to start because he's our
Well,
starter.
here's the deal, Jeremy. Okay, Wayne Fonts, and I went to school with his son Mike, but I knew Wayne pretty well, and of course I worked with him a lot. Didn't believe that a quarterback should be replaced due to injury. Well, Wayne, Bill Belichick thinks differently. He got a lot more, jewelry than you. Okay, and the reality of the situation is that Eric Kramer should have been the starter the following year, wasn't. Okay, and the rest is history because now Eric Kramer is the trivia answer to a question who the Lions' last quarterback was to win one. So, and of course we all know about the Heisman Trophy bust there with Andre Ware. Didn't work out so good with the run and shoot deal that subsequently took place. But the reality of the situation is Wayne Fonts never believed that a player should lose his job to an injury. Well, Bill Belichick's coaching and Wayne Fonts isn't, so I don't have to say anymore. And yet Wayne Fonts is the all-time winningest coach with the Lions by wins itself. So it's neat to bring back some of those other things too. And
Memories.
yeah, no, they really were. I mean, George and I could be thankful that the Lions, I got in 4 Super Bowls to the Lions, and of course George managed to get to a couple too. So
Yep, and we are proud of it. And Detroit one day, I hope, gets another one because they did a hell of a job with Roger Penske and the team and getting that game to Ford Field. Of course, it was, as you know, guaranteed that they would get one if they built the new stadium.
Yeah.
So getting a second one now has been a bit of a challenge for Detroit, but they got the draft. The 2024 draft, guys, is coming to the Motor City.
Detroit.
All right. Well, should the Lions get in the playoffs, it'll be their first appearance since 2016. So if you're looking to eliminate a footnote about longest routes getting in the playoffs, if the Lions take care of their business, they can take themselves off that list. They've been on a lot of tough lists, but they can afford to get off of this one. George, I love your segue about Ford Field. So I'm going to throw out a little interesting tidbit out here. And ironically, the Detroit Lions have won 2 games at MetLife Stadium by beating both the Giants and the Jets. Yet, by the same token, the Buffalo Bills have won 2 games at Ford Field, Cleveland, and, the Lions. So, for whatever it's worth, well, you know what? There's always a home away from home. And in both instances, the Lions can say MetLife and the Bills can say Ford Field. George, any thoughts about that observation?
Well, that is an interesting angle, Scott. And, of course, Buffalo, defeated the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, but that game was winnable for Detroit as well.
Right.
And then, of course, the Lions, and I think I told you guys this when this happened, is that they get a phone call all the time from the NFL saying, is the stadium available in case of a major snowstorm or stadium issue or something like that. So the Lions have been more than accommodating, and that's a feather in their cap to open up Ford Field for a team in an emergency situation. I would never, guys, and I looked at, and we all make our predictions at the beginning of the year. Jeremy was more optimistic than a lot of us. I would never have said Detroit would go into the Meadowlands and win 2 games. Now, Jeremy and Sean, Scott, you guys got to admit, I don't think anybody would have predicted that unless you were drinking Kool-Aid at a big gallon of
No.
it.
At the time, those 2 teams coming into the season looked as bad as our team last season. All
Right.
they had was
True.
a couple draft picks. They were dumping big salaries in New York, cutting weight to clear cap just so they could sign their rookies. They got rid of James Bradbury and Blake Martinez and kept Kenny Galladay.
Yeah.
True.
Hey, by the
True.
way, in the last 2 seasons, he has 5 catches for $36 million or $38 million.
Yeah, but still, I wouldn't have thought that Detroit would go in there and win both of those.
I had those marked as wins on my schedule.
Well, then, everybody, if you're looking for betting advice with Mr. Parlay, Smoking Jeremy B's got a crystal ball. So go out there and dial him up. And if you're on Twitter, I'll even say it for you, Jeremy, to get you a little bit of business here. At Smoking Jeremy B is how you can reach this guy on Twitter, and then he'll give you his other stuff in about 5 or 10 minutes. So, yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. Any thoughts quickly, Sean, about the irony about the Lions calling MetLife their home away from home and the Bills calling Ford Field? Because I know the Minnesota Vikings have used Ford Field from time to time. Go ahead,
And
Sean.
did not have good luck there. But anyways.
Go ahead.
I think it's where Brett Favre's career pretty much ended, right? What was the game before? I think. That was the first game he missed. But yeah, I mean, I like that we got 2 wins. I'm an old school guy. I think if you play football up north, you should play outside. So I think the Lions should eventually move back outside one day. But it's nice seeing them win these cold weather games and stuff like that. And it's nice to be the economy letting the Bills come over. And I like watching Josh Allen play, even though he beat us. But yeah, it's just kind of cool to see him get 2 wins. And
Yeah, I think that one of the more interesting parts about it, I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago, I don't mind reiterating, Ralph Wilson obviously is a longtime Detroiter, late Ralph Wilson. So the ties between the Lions and the Buffalo Bills go steep. And I'll never forget Congressman Jack Kemp and I caught up in Jacksonville, Super Bowl 39. And when I told him I was from a Detroit paper, the Detroit Monitor at the time, he was more than happy to give me whatever time because he had fond memories of Detroit. So it's good in an indirect sense that you have a partnership between Buffalo and Detroit. And it's just ironic, I guess probably is a better word for it, that the Lions won in the Meadowlands for 2 years, 2 games this year. And it's safe to say they knew where the visitors' locker room was.
That they did.
Yeah, they did. And, once they got off the schneid and beat Chicago, then those wins on the road became a little easier. So while Jeremy's probably chasing down his dog out there, or whatever he's got. No, he's chasing down. All right, there we go. I'm looking for a sponsorship out of that one, knowing that you brought that on there. It's a little too late for me to drink that stuff. Otherwise, my other half will kill me.
I can't go nowhere without my version of Lions Kool-Aid.
That's okay. That's clean Kool-Aid. I mean, it's clean, but it isn't. In other words, it's yellow or green, but it works. Okay.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So, Jeremy, any closing thoughts about the home away from home / Meadowlands Ford Field connection before we go on my final point?
Well, now since the series was tied in the 14 meetings with the New York Jets at 7-7, we can officially call Dan Campbell the New York Jets daddy.
All right, I'm leaving it there. That was good.
8-7, and he's the daddy.
Yeah, you know what?
He's 1-0.
Folks, you won't ever hear me say that I'm at a loss for words too often, but Jeremy seems to be doing that a lot. But let me say I'm not at a loss for words for telling you that Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. South Florida Tribune. We're striving to get 1,000 subscribers, and every one counts. So we would appreciate you hitting that red button, subscribe, and boom, baby, you're part of the family. So with that said, let's talk a little about Christmas here. Candy and I are trading place with the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. They're going to be in Miami to face the Miami Dolphins on Christmas Day. I actually saw the Lions face the Dolphins on Christmas Day with Barry Sanders, and in that game, Johnny Morton scored on a special teams touchdown. So, it's pretty interesting. When we were on the road on Saturday night, our hotel did not have the NFL Network, so we could not go ahead and watch any of the three games. But especially the Dolphins game. But I think we're going to have a problem locating it this weekend. So, with that said, okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, George. Give me your thoughts over what you're planning to do over the Christmas holiday.
Well, you see, I'm broadcasting right now from the Christmas studio here. I hope you like my wreath. All that being said, just doing some traveling, being with friends and family. Of course, we're planning and should have a lot of fun this weekend. And everybody, I hope, is going to be okay. They're talking about a winter storm coming through the center of the nation. And supposedly that's going to be Thursday and Friday here in Detroit, maybe into Saturday too. So, yeah, I just want everybody to be safe out there, enjoy the games, enjoy the festivities. It's one of those rare things that we've got football on the holiday weekend. I'm not a big fan of that. And the NFL went and scheduled 3 games on the 25th, okay? And I know that Commissioner Silver is not very happy because the NBA thinks they own Christmas Day, as you guys know, with 5 games always, but now they're going to be competing with 3 NFL games to be broadcast on Sunday, as well as a slew of them going to be on, of course, Christmas Eve. But all that being said, sports aside, let's all have fun. Let's enjoy the holiday and remember all our loved ones who obviously can't be with us anymore. And of course, that'll be my mom and dad. And I want to say a special remembrance to Scott's mom as well, who just recently had her anniversary in heaven. And so we always remember those that gone before us too.
All right, Jeremy.
I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to make sure that my kids and my grandchild get something nice for Christmas. But other than that, I'm going to watch football. What else is there to do? I mean, it's a holiday and I don't have to work, so I might as well watch football.
So I guess I should be asking, do you plan to do any shows or that many during the holiday?
I am doing my first college show on Saturday on Christmas Eve. I have a friend named Brendan Cook who's very high on doing a lot of background and draft profiles type stuff. And him and I are going to go over the college football playoff picture, the college bowl games upcoming that day, the next day, and on through the week. And then we're also going to talk about a couple of draft profiles. I actually had to throw one out because I wrote up a nice one about Grayson McCall, and he's staying. He hit the transfer portal to go to Auburn.
Okay. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, just going to spend it with family and friends. My brother just had his daughter a couple days ago, so we meet her for the first time, so it'll be pretty cool too. But other than that, yeah, like I'm with Jeremy, just going to watch probably 15 hours of football over the weekend, so it'll be fun. And then, just relax, eat some good food, and hang with family, and enjoy. And I hope you guys all have a great Christmas as well too.
Yeah, we're going to be heading out of here on Thursday night up to Racine, Wisconsin, and I have family up there. My in-laws will be up there. It'll be pretty good. I know this year my father-in-law is dealing with some difficult health issues, so it's thankfully still with us, and I'm looking forward to catching a little time with him as well as the rest of the in-laws as well. And of course, how do you not watch football, for crying out loud? So that's all part of it. I don't think I know the NBA says they own that holiday, but when you bring the NFL in there, they're threatened. And yes, I am wearing this King of the Road hat because I usually find myself on the road an awful lot during this time of the year. But I've spent Christmases in a lot of different areas. But when you have a vested interest in an area like I do, the Wisconsin area, with family, then it's certainly something I'm planning to do. But before I get around to taking that trip, Jeremy and I are going to be doing some work tomorrow night on Inside the Pigskin. Folks, we're going to have a really great show tomorrow night, and it'll be a standalone show. So I'm going to have a lot of great topics that Jeremy and I and the rest of our crew that'll be announced on social media tomorrow we'll have. So, you talk about a loaded weekend. Oh, my goodness. This last weekend was as loaded as it gets. So if you're looking for a really thorough, in-depth show tomorrow, then I could say that we're probably going to be broadcasting approximately 8:15 on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Inside the Pigskin will be there. Candy Ebling will also be on the show as well, and I'll announce the other crew later on. So To me, just having you guys on tonight has been an absolute joy treat. Sean, I think you're just a great addition. I look for some great things. Jeremy, what can I say about you? I mean, geez, oh, Pete, you match everybody one-liner for one-liner, and now I'm forced to call you Chris Berman. Oh, goodness. But yeah, that's at least clean compared to some of the stuff that you do. And George, what's there to say about you? All right, with that said, okay, as we wrap up Fire Up Michigan, I'll let Sean let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Higgins Jones. Higgins Jones, excuse me. And then my personal Twitter is McCabe at McCabe Sean WSU. So that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, like I said, Sean, we're going to be bringing you back on one of our first shows here in 2023. Get a little bit of rest. I know you'll gain a lot of knowledge, and we're going to be bringing you back immediately. All right, Smoking Jeremy, let everybody know how they can reach you.
Well, you can always find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com, and under the Motor City Tribune as one of the authors, that because I write about the Lions, of course. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B, or on Twitter at Smoking Jeremy B.
Yeah, kneecap biting should really be trending now with the job that Dan Campbell is doing.
I am 3 away from 200 subs.
Good for you. We'll keep up the good work. We'll do everything we can help you get there with all the repetition you get on the broadcast. So, right, George. Well, 'tis the time of the year to promote your book. Then again, every show is, but this is probably a bit more meaningful.
Yep.
But anyway, so go ahead.
I wrote the book on Detroit sports broadcasting in Michigan and in the Motor City. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Find a link on the South Florida Tribune website, and also you can get it from eBay and from Amazon. And also I can be found at SNG Sports 99 on Twitter, and you can email me at gicorn@yahoo.com, and also read me in the Detroit Downtown Monitor, which comes out every couple of weeks in the Motor City. And I write also for Motor City Tribune, as well as Jeremy and Scott and Candy's outstanding publication under the South Florida Tribune banner.
Yeah, that book is great because I'm glad that George was able to dig up photo Muhammad Ali and myself.
Oh, yes. you did a great job.
No, it's pretty cool. I know you mention it all the time, but I take pride in those photos because I've always met a lot of interesting people being on the road. So, and the fact that you were able to dig up those photos to me are just unbelievable. It's a good read. And not only that's an easy read, for crying out loud, that book there is filled with a lot of pictures and history. So, you can access it again through our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. And also, I should let everybody know, if you want to email the show, do so at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to reach us via Twitter, you can do so at Tribune South. Okay. And I'll over this one more time here that Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you'll be surprised, a lot of these shows actually go internationally as well. We have Geo7. That's also one of those things. And also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. South Florida Tribune, we're striving for 1,000 subscribers as well. The main thing is when we try to find more subscribers, we want more people to pay attention to the work that we work diligently to put these shows together so you can be entertained as well as informed. And I think that's the utmost thing in our business is you need to be entertained and informed and enjoy hopefully the timely commentary that gives you a different perspective how we go about doing things. So once again, and I will say this before we call it a night, I'm really looking forward to bringing in a lot of the new talent that we'll have on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, as well as with our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. So a lot of great things to look forward to in 2023. Had a lot of fun in 22, and we're just going to continue to build this train and keep her rolling any way that we can. And I strive and do the best I can to find people that you can relate to, that we really enjoy doing this with. So meanwhile, on behalf of Sean McCabe, Smoking Jeremy B., and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morgan, Route the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan, and we will catch you the next time. And folks, go out there, season screenings, and have a great Christmas holiday. And we look forward to seeing you. And keep following our updates on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. We're out there available any way we can. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. God bless here from the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, as well as the South Florida Tribune. Good night, everybody. And once again, have a happy holiday season and season greetings for all of us here. Good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
And happy Hanukkah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.